Hey everybody, this is CDJ, Tommy, and JBHuskers from the Gaming Tailgate. Today we want to walk you through coach vision and pass protection in EA Sports College Football 25. Why do we want to talk about coach vision? First off, we asked the community, how often do you use this feature? I assume the number would be higher, but going through this, I was kind of surprised. And guys, quickly, what do you think? I cannot believe that half of the users who responded rarely, if ever, and a quarter saying never, use the feature.
Yeah, I mean, the more I use it, the more I see the benefits of it, but you have to know what you're looking for, and
Right.
you also have to kind of slow down the game. If you're one of those people that just wants to snap the ball as soon as you get to the line, then you're not going to use it. So you
Mhm.
have to want to slow down the game. You have to want to kind of take your game, I hate to say it, but take it to the next level and kind of understand more of what's actually going on with the mechanics, understand a little bit of the real world college football that's built in, things like that. So
Mm.
it's definitely a matter of what are you looking to get out of the game, and then as well, a lot of people it's just they don't know what it offers, so they don't know where to start, sort of thing.
Yeah, with myself, I just haven't really been using it much as I'm just kind of getting the grasp on, especially in our online dynasty, our sliders are pretty unforgiving because we got we're using bad teams too, keep in mind. And so, just trying to get a grasp of of kind of playing and such, I haven't used the coach vision as much as I'm probably going to use it a month from now and 2 months from now, just as I'm just trying to still get my feet wet with all aspects of the game.
Or hopefully what you'll do just hours after we record and walk through this video, JB.
You'll go straight to practice mode, right?
Probably now, after I get smoked those last 2 weeks.
To do coach vision, PlayStation, you use L2 on Xbox, the left trigger, to bring up player abilities by position.
So once you're into this coach cam on, like CDJ said, on the left stick, you have all of the different abilities that you can kind of highlight. Here I'm using Arkansas State, Louisiana Lafayette. So, or excuse me, Louisiana for the Louisiana fans. As you kind of go around, starting at the top, it's your D line. So you're kind of seeing who has abilities. This will help highlight who you should be kind of most afraid of. If there's one player that has an entirely full chart or something like that, then you kind of have a better idea. On the right, you've got your skill positions: quarterback, running back, receiver, and tight end. On the bottom, you've got your offensive line. So here, as you can see, my left guard is, really skilled. He has 2 platinum ratings. So again, that kind of tells you who one of your better blockers is. And then finally, you've got your linebackers and DBs. Again, it will highlight if there are any, major concerns, if there's certain players that you should be afraid of. On the right stick, starting again from the top, here we're in practice mode, so some of these are not going to apply, particularly like the wear and tear and composure. But again, just to kind of give you an idea about it. But if you press on the right, it's your composure. So this will kind of tell you, are some of your players struggling more than others, or is somebody on fire or something like that? So you can kind of see, maybe keep feeding them or maybe steer away from them or something like that. And then on the right is matchups. We'll come back to this one in just a second.
Can we go back to composure? So the way it'll show when you get into a game would be basically a line underneath them and a meter, and it fills up to the right in the red. That means they're hot. And the gameplay block kept saying they're cooking. So that's because view red is good. And I believe when their composure is low, that meter will go to the left side and be blue. And that's when they're, as Tommy said, that's when they're kind of struggling.
And then here on the right stick, you have your matchup. So this is going to give you indications for your receivers based upon who's going to be covering them. Do you have an advantage there? So if it's green, obviously you have the better player. You should be able to take, some kind of advantage of that. I did notice that this is not just overall. I've seen that if you have a faster receiver, significantly faster than the DB, that can also show green. Even if he has lower overall, he could still show up there as well.
That was my
Then
question
down
as
here,
well, like what it was going off of. Because it's not clear anywhere that I've seen that EA put out any literature or in-game tips or tricks, what it's basing that off of. So that's good that you figured that out, because I was wondering. Now, am I looking wrong? The tight end, is that a full red? And that receiver, is he a full red, or is that a half red? Or am I just looking wrong?
I think it's only 3 colors: green, yellow, and red. I don't think
Okay.
there's full or any other,
What is your receiver on the
measurement
right?
there. He shows as a red for me.
Okay. Maybe it's just the angle I'm looking at with that light shining in from your practice stadium. So I thought I'd ask.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there was something there I was missing.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be red. Again, like you said, for me, even it could kind of look orange, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be red.
Okay.
And then on the bottom, we have wear and tear. Again, we're in practice mode, so we're not going to see this, but this will kind of give you an idea if some players are have much lower ratings. It's not going to show their ratings, but it'll show how much damage they've taken throughout the game. And then here, this is to me one of the more important ones, particularly in the coach cam, the blocking. This one kind of gives you actually a lot of information here. You'll notice that not only does it give you the blocking assignments, the red and blue lines here, and it points who they're going to be covering. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But then it also gives you the matchups for the offensive line. So you notice here that my left tackle is a yellow, whereas the other four are green. So in theory, the left side is going to be one of the weaker sides. So definitely kind of got to give him some extra help from time to time or something like that. This to me, the green and yellow and red for offensive lineman is a very big part as well, especially if you notice that one defensive player is kind of killing you. It may be because your offensive lineman is a lot weaker in that spot.
Yeah, and I know just from playing with this team in the online dynasty, you can see right there the center is one of the impact players on the team. So you know if it's a green and you got green on the other side, you can definitely definitely take advantage of that right middle to the right in the run game there.
And Tommy, can you pull up? We believe this aspect of this is bugged. It's supposed to, like, if you're in a real game on this same screen, it'll show you on the defense. It'll show you orange triangles with the white flames on certain players. Can you go to the play art? This will show in game on that, coach vision blocking. And this is my thought, and I'd love to hear, guys, if you agree or disagree. If people watch this video and get nothing else out of it, just know that when you use the coach vision blocking or the play art, those two players, and I believe I don't know if there's any block behind the pass protection menu, but the two players there that have those triangles and flames, those are, if you make no blocking adjustments, which we'll get to, those are the players that if they decide to blitz, no one is even going to attempt to block them. And I'm not going to say that they're going to get blocked 100% if you do change your blocking, because the way EA's blocking is right now, they may come in untouched. But it means that if they decide to blitz, they're coming in untouched. Also, it's one of those things that sometimes I think you can live with that if you know, like, if they're blitzing, that's might be where you want to put the ball in terms of that'd be a good spot to have a receiver go necessarily if you're not going to block them. So I think my biggest tip is know what that means. That means if you do not block or change their scheme, they're coming in if they decide to.
Yeah, like one of those plays you see a lot is that RPO where that second receiver on the left is going to do a slant route. So, that could be a good indicator that guy could be open for that quick little pass over there.
And Tom, before you show the pass pro real quick, can you go back to the coach vision blocking and just explain what the blue lines are for people?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you see this both in the pass protection with L1. Again, we'll cover that more in a little bit. But here you see the red lines versus the blue lines. So the red line means it's a one-on-one matchup. This is the guy he's going to attempt to block straight out of the gate. Again, assuming that player rushes. So you notice that on the left side by my left tackle, there's a linebacker that's off the line. So this is a 3-3 look. He may or may not rush, but if he does rush, then my left tackle is first assigned to him. And then for the blue lines, this means that they have two assignments. The left guard and the center are both going to double team the nose tackle there. If the middle linebacker also blitzes, then one of them will branch off to pick up the middle linebacker. So if the middle linebacker doesn't branch or doesn't rush, then you have a double team block there that, again, in theory, you'll have a lot more time from that. But if he does rush, then you also have somebody that can pick him up, again, in a one-on-one scenario in that case.
Okay, so if you go back to the play art, pretend you're looking at your coach vision blocking. I think I know the answer, but I'm going to play the unknown person here for the audience. Okay, so I see those two flame icons like CDJ mentioned. He says if I don't change my blocking, they're coming in untouched. If they decide to blitz, what can I do with pass protection to solve this?
And there's a lot of things you can do. And just to be clear, it's yes, if they come through, they'll come through. There's nobody that's assigned to block them. So yes, that's the case. Now, if let's say the middle linebacker doesn't blitz and on the right side of the screen, the left outside linebacker does blitz, then the center may pick him up if he's coming through his gap, if he kind of sees him, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But long story short, the two guys with the flames are the most likely threat that is not going to get picked up. Basically, is there a bigger threat coming because they're closer to the line, they're closer to the box, that kind of thing. If everybody were deep off the line, then you wouldn't see any, yellow markers, so to speak. Like if everyone was in prevent defense or something like that.
If you shift your tight end to the left, would that take care of that outside linebacker?
Well, in this case, I'll show you the play art. This is a play I picked. My recommendation is go into practice mode, find one play that has 11 personnel, so 3 receivers, a tight end, and a running back. Find a formation that has that and with deep routes. So this one is pretty good. It has mixture of different routes, has one deep on the left, post on the right, and then different levels between the other two. The reason I say that is because you can kind of experiment a little bit more with this, and we'll go into that a little bit more why. But basically, I like this one because I can do a lot with it. Not necessarily in game. Now, in game you can do it too, but in practice mode, this is kind of where I would start with. And then on the defensive side, I just chose a random any play. That way I can get different looks on the defensive front and different blitzes coming at me and things like that. But at least on offense, it's always consistent. I know what play I'm running, so I can kind of adjust my look based upon that. So to your point, JB, since in this case, we have 5 blockers, just the offensive lineman, no one else is staying in to block. So in this case, obviously the tight end, he has a route, so he's going to go out. He's not going to try to block anybody. In this case, again, we have 5 blockers, so there are their 5 assignments. Now, before I make any other adjustments, the one thing I want to do is CDJ, you mentioned the guy on the right or the left outside linebacker to the right of the middle linebacker. Mm-hmm. He kind of looks like a threat. Now, depending upon how I read the defense, I'll zoom this out. In this case, I can see the defense is likely in a cover 6. That's based upon the assignment of the defensive backs, their depth, and all of the rest of the defense around them. This is an assumption, but that's a pretty good assumption. Now, obviously, in a real game, they can disguise their coverage, so you can't guarantee that they're going to be in that actual coverage, but that's at least how you can read it from the snap. There's a lot of really good tutorials that will show you how to do that. Even the Madden tutorials, those definitely still apply here to kind of based upon the depth of the defensive backs and the alignment, that tells you, at least in general, what coverage shell they're in. So now that we're here back to the pass protection, if you hit X to ID the mic, to me, this is kind of a signifier to say, this is a guy that we care about most. We think he's either going to blitz, he's going to cause more damage because he's a better player or something like that. Again, this is the video game terminology, not the real world necessarily. But in this case, if I thought that this guy was going to be coming on a blitz, I could select him as my mic. And then now when I do that and bring up the blocking, now you see that center says, oh, well, let me focus on him instead. We lost the double team on the left-hand side, but it basically tells him to go and look at that player first because I think he's going to blitz, that kind of thing. So again, the ID, the mic is important. Again, I can go over here to the other side and select that one and then bring it back up. And again, now you see that he is going to be the first target for the leftover offensive lineman. Now, again, in this case, you've got the middle linebacker and left outside linebacker coming free. So you got to do something there if you really think they are going to be blitzing. So
if you hot route the running back into pass protection, does that get rid of one of the flames?
Absolutely. But actually what it'll do is potentially add another flame if there's somebody else that's in the box or something like that. But again, these are the two that they consider the most of a threat. So that's why they're highlighted. But yes, you can there's definitely a lot of things you can do here. So I'm going to press down left stick on the to go back to the base alignment. That brings me back to what the original default was in this case, so that the mic gets reset and then the double team falls back to the way it was before. So I'm going to let this play out. The other tip I want to suggest is let the computer automatically drop back for you. Don't, like, as soon as the ball is snapped, don't try to just run around with the quarterback because your blockers are trying to block based upon what the automatic depth should be. So let the computer drop back for you, and then based upon that, you can kind of move your quarterback around if you need to. So I'll play this one out. You can kind of see what the center and the guard do, if there's any blitzers that come through or anything like that. We'll kind of see how that plays out. So again, this is the play. We're going to run it. And as we see, the left guard and center picked up that double team. Nobody else blitzed. Nobody else came in hot. So it was just that left guard and center stuck on that defensive tackle. And if you noticed, we'll go back into instant replay. He didn't go anywhere because he was double teamed. Now, obviously, the rest of them are one-on-one. So, it's a matter of, are they going to win their battles? Obviously, double team's not invincible, but you have a much better chance. Really good defensive lineman still can break through that. But everyone else is on a one-on-one. So you kind of are up to a little bit of the skill ratings, a little bit of the EA logic, a little bit of, just kind of the general, blocking that we know. But at least we know that defensive tackle that we were so worried about is double team blocked. And so we just have to kind of watch the rest of the rush where it's coming from. So,
and that left tackle who you had is what, yellow, I believe, when you were showing initially the matchups, I believe he was one who got beat. So that played out properly. Like that was the weak spot that what the game showed you. And sure enough, yeah, you had him blocking, but he was the one who got beat.
Exactly.
We went way back.
Yeah, it's his depth. So I mean, again, that could just be a matter of skill. I don't think it's an EA bug necessarily because he went too deep. Yeah, he went too deep, and so the guy cut inside him. So
that was a yellow matchup too, wasn't it?
Yeah,
exactly.
He was yellow. He was the weak spot on the line.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, yes, we would want him to pick that up. And there's ways to kind of give him some help. We'll talk about in a minute. But yes, that's likely the most, in this scenario, that was the most likely one to break free first.
That played out pretty well, actually, for
absolutely
all things considered.
So here we're going back to the line. Same offensive play, like I said earlier, going to stick to the same offensive line. One thing to note, I've seen in practice mode, and I don't know about in games, but every now and then the play art doesn't show up correctly, and the offensive line assignments don't always show up correctly. You just have to show it again, kind of thing. So just FYI. But as we're going through that video, if you see kind of some things like that, that's why.
And sometimes you let it sit there, like it'll play out. Like it takes a second or two for it the logic to figure out what it wants to do. Or
exactly,
sometimes the defender moves, even like if the lineman shifts at all, that it's something that art moves and then resets.
Absolutely. Especially as you're first coming out of the huddle, you're not going to see any line assignments because they're waiting on the defense to get set. They're not just instantly going to know exactly where everyone's going to be. But once they're all set, once the defense stops, shuffling around a little bit, then they'll kind of know who their assignments are. So in this case, again, we're in the defense is in a 3-3 front. They're actually in a cover 3 shell or a cover 1 shell. Probably a cover 1 because of how deep the safety is. But if you notice that the other safety is up in the box, the nickel corner is there on his, and then the outside corners are at about 8 yards, 7-8 yards depth. So that's kind of how you can see cover 3. Again, cover 3, cover 0, it's going to be very similar, but I think the cover 1 and cover 3 is going to be very similar. But I think the cover 1 free safety in the middle is going to be deeper in general. So again, in my mind, we're there in a cover 1, so we're going to have some extra blitzers here, most likely. So again, if I pull this out, we see right off the bat that the center has a nose tackle right in front of him, but we're also worried about that linebacker. My guess, and this is a little bit of a cheese tip, but at the same time, there's no way to avoid it. But looking at this, my guess is he's blitzing. I've noticed that there's a lot of times, or not a lot of times, but sometimes the blocking assignments straight out of the gate without making any changes, they'll tell you who's blitzing. So if that nickel corner is blitzing, the running back or the left tackle will automatically be assigned to them. Again, to me, that's a little bit of cheese. You shouldn't know that he's coming in on a blitz, but EA's needs to patch it, but until they do, it's there. So but again, in my guess, that linebacker is coming on a blitz, so we'll kind of see how that plays out. Again, you can kind of play around with different things. The first thing to kind of show you that I really like to do is this double team. This is more so if you don't think they're coming in on a blitz. So I'm not going to use that just now. I'll talk about some of the other stuff before we get there, but definitely we'll come back to that double team. But in this case, since I think somebody's blitzing and maybe multiple people are blitzing, JB, you were kind of touching on this earlier. You can press the right on the up stick, and that'll do max protect. So what that tells you is any any tight ends or running backs that are inside the pocket, they will automatically switch to blocking. So again, if I go back out here, I see that their assignment has automatically shifted. I didn't have to go to each individual one and change to blocking. It was just one change and boom, we're done. So again, we're on max protect. As we see now, we have a lot better pickup. So if there was a big blitz coming in, we have 7 blockers here that can pick up the players. We have 7 assignments each to one of the blitzers. In this case, if one of them doesn't blitz, then whoever was supposed to pick them up will pick up the next best target. So again, let's say the Mike linebacker in this case, if he does not blitz, then that left tackle, or excuse me, that left guard will probably shift over to help that left tackle. Again, it all depends upon how it plays out, how deep the defensive end rushes, things like that. But in general, that's what it is. So now that we have the max protect, we have more people to block. I'm worried about that nose tackle, or actually, no, let's say we're worried about our left tackle because, again, we think that he's a weaker one. We see that he's still yellow. We see that the tight end is a red. So, again, he's going to be weaker on that rushing linebacker. So, we want to give them some help. So what you can do here is there's a few different things. Again, I like the pressing down on the double team, and then you have to tell it who you want to double team. I'm worried about this matchup in particular, so I'm going to double team him. And then if I come back to the assignments, I see that now the left guard and the left tackle are both double teaming him. The running back was assigned to the safety on the right side of the screen. Now he's picking up the Mike linebacker. Again, just like earlier, we can switch the mic to tell it to pick up that safety that's in the box. It's you can kind of tell it who to focus on. So in this case, again, we're gonna let this one play out, and you will kind of see how that goes. My guess is that this guy, I'm not going to set him, but this guy is going to be coming in on a blitz. This guy will also be rushing as kind of a rush end. And then my assumption is this guy's going to drop into coverage. Or actually, no, he'll probably, we'll wait and see. But again, nobody's set on the mic, so I'm going to leave that as is. And if we see this, I'm going to snap the ball. We'll see how things play out. Oh, I was totally wrong. That linebacker was not blitzing. So it's not an exact science. I thought because they were focusing on him at the snap of the ball before we made any changes that he was going to be on a blitz. But again, it's not an exact science. So it's something to take with a grain of salt.
Yeah, and the halfback did come up to help on that weaker side of the left there because that's where all the penetration came from.
Exactly. So
Still didn't help, but
yeah, I mean, and I was just obviously I wasn't trying to move around the pocket. I was just trying to let everything play out to see how things happen. But we'll see the left side that there's a double team. Nobody else blitzes except for the front 4. So in this case, we have 7 blockers for 4 rushes. In theory, you should be able to pick all of that up, but at least there's going to be one-on-one matchup there. So it's just a matter of who wins it. But in this case, the left side, it is double teamed. The center is taking on that nose tackle, and the nose tackle makes a good move. On the right side, we've got number 75, number 77. They are double teaming that D end. And again, the tight end is trying to handle that rushing linebacker with the running back waiting in the wings to help pick up if somebody breaks free. In this case, probably the linebacker that would break free.
Yeah, if you shuffled in
out. Oh, go ahead.
If you shuffled in the pocket a little bit to the right, you might have had some time to hit that guy in the right because I think he probably would have been open in that little area zone there once he makes his break towards the post.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing is that you do need to be able to move in the pocket. You can't just be a statue here. You got to be able to at least kind of have half of an eye on the offensive line to kind of see where containment's breaking, move away from that. As well, if you have a lot of strength on one side, maybe you kind of float to that side more often. It all depends upon where the rush is coming from, who you're most confident in picking up blocks, things like that. And
Yeah, that
so
that practice that mini game with the pocket with the shooting the balls at you is a really good one to kind of get you used to moving in the pocket without actually leaving the pocket because it won't let you leave the pocket or it'll penalize you. So that's a good way to practice that too if you're not comfortable moving within the pocket normally in your day-to-day gameplay.
absolutely. Yeah, they do have some mini games that are going to help you out here. To me, I like practice mode because you actually get to see the live defenders and kind of read and react a little bit better. But yeah, they'll help you with your stick skills and things like that.
And I think
So if we
overall,
let
there
this
like the blocking there was good, but there's a give and take. Like when you had those guys stay back to protect, you lost those routes.
exactly,
That's
yeah.
people got
So
to keep that
like
in
you
mind.
said,
Like you can stop the unblocked players relatively easily, or at least assign them, but then you're losing routes. That's the
You know,
give
you
and
got
take of
yeah,
this whole
yeah.
game feature is that you gotta be careful. Like those routes were there, no offense, they weren't great, but that wasn't your choice. That was all you had, that's what you had to do though to protect yourself.
And oddly, the
it,
center is the best player on that line on that team too, and he still got beat. So
well, I mean that's
you may not see it coming. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean and it happens in real life. I mean, you can
Yep.
have a stud center against a weak defensive lineman and he still lose. It's not luck of the draw. Obviously, the ratings play into it, but at the same time, things happen. So, like you said, we have less receivers in normal. Like you said, I would also float kind of to the right and kind of watch to see where
Mhm.
we get break open. But if we let this play out a little bit further, you notice that again, the defensive tackle broke off the center, number 73, and the running back happens to see that. And so he comes over and tries to pick him up. Now, I didn't move. That would obviously be a big key to float to the right. We would have a lot of time here if I had done
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a matter of getting the blocking assignments, but then reading how the blocks work out, and then kind of moving away from where the pressure's coming. So I don't like that number 73. I think this is more kind of on a bug level. Number 73 doesn't try to turn around and block anybody. He just kind of hangs out there. But yeah, long story short, it like you said, it played out almost exactly like we would expect it to. Everybody ended up blocked well. The tight end did a good job of holding off his block, things like that. So, like I said, go into practice mode, play some of these, watch the replay, and see how things played out, just to kind of
Mhm.
get a better idea of how it's going to work.
So what are the other pass
So,
protection things on there, Tommy? Like, what's a full slide and a half slide?
yeah, I was gonna say there's still a lot to cover that we haven't even
Yep.
covered. So again, in this case, the full slide and half slide, we'll start with the half slide. The half slide says that if you press it to the left, in this case, you notice those switch to green.
Mhm.
That tells the center to the left side of the offensive line. The slide is just strictly for the offensive line. If you have additional blockers, they do not slide, but they adjust based upon the slide. I'll explain that in a minute. But in this case, these three blockers will each kind of their first step will be to the left. They are sliding because we think pressure is going to come from there. And so they'll kind of shift that way to pick it up. Um, this you would do if either you think that there's a blitz coming from that side or you want to, leave a particular defender on the other side unblocked so that the running back will pick him up, or so that because you can get away from him or whatever. You can slide it left and right. You can be left and right to kind of see who the different assignments are, who gets picked up, and things like that. If you don't like what the assignments are, you can always press down, go back to base, and then make your adjustments there again.
Are
So
base and reset the same thing?
no, reset is to reset everything. That resets the double team, the
Okay.
max protect, the slides, all of that. Whereas base, it just resets the blocking assignments that we have here. It'll reset the slide. I don't think it'll reset the max protect. I don't think it'll reset double team.
And the mic.
Yeah, and I don't think I don't know if it'll reset the mic. So it's kind of a mix. One does one thing and one does the other.
So let's go.
Um,
If you do a half slide again, and then do a half slide first, can you motion that running back? I don't know if this formation lets you motion him to the left side. What happens to him? Because you can also keep this in
so
mind. You can move him around as well to add additional blocker to the other side. Don't forget, you can always motion that running back as well. He's not locked in on most formations.
absolutely, yeah. So in this case, he is running a route, so he's not set to pick anybody
Mhm.
up. But kind of to the point that we talked about, I can uh, give him a hot route to tell him that I want him to block. So in this case, if I want to tell R1, the running back, to block, I would hit triangle R1. And then here's all of the different hot routes that we can assign. And we're going to do R2 for pass block. So now that that's set, we can go back in here and we see that the running back is going to try to pick up somebody. In this case, he's going to try to pick up that Mike linebacker. The left shift is still there. The half slide to the left is still there. And then the running back will pick up who he thinks is the most important threat based upon the other blocks. So if I now do a half slide to the right, you notice that the running back assignment also changed. The offensive line is going to focus on the right side, or at least, excuse me, those three players on the right side are going to kind of shift one step to the right. And so the running back then knows who to pick up based upon who's left open, so to speak.
In a situation
So
like
that's,
this, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Tommy.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
That's if we go back to that half slide we had before, and I noticed we move the running back, and the running back we audible them, do a block or do pass blocking. Would you in a situation like this, are you more worried about the corner or are you more worried about the linebacker?
That's a good
Just as a
question.
user, curious. In my labbing yesterday, and it's kind of the point you mentioned in passing earlier, and I should have spoke up, and I agree with you. To me, it sounds like anything in the block or closer to the line, I feel is the bigger threat in the game. And especially corners can come screaming in. I've noticed they're very effective in this game. Would you, on that play, would you change the mic to that corner or would you leave it where it is? Just as a user, there's no wrong answer, just a curiosity's sake.
In my case, no, I would leave it as it is because I can tell that they're in man cover two. The reason I know that is because all three defensive backs are straight right up on their matchup, and then the safeties are both deep.
Okay.
So this to me tells me it's man cover two. Now, again, you can do covered shells. There's different defensives that say hide it this way or something like that. So, it's not guaranteed that they're in man cover two, but odds are I believe they are.
Okay.
So in this case, I'm not worried about the nickel. I'm worried about the down defensive lineman and then the three linebackers.
Is there ever
Okay.
a scenario that you would use block and release as opposed to just block?
Absolutely, yeah. Again, like you said, that's another thing you can do. You can do that hot route, R1, and then L2 to block and release. And again, it adjusts the play art. We see that he is taking that linebacker, and if the linebacker is not blitzing, then odds are he's going to go out for a pass. If the linebacker does blitz, then odds are he's going to stay in and block that linebacker.
What does the play art
So,
show for that? If you're just looking at
uh,
pure play art, if somebody
so yeah,
didn't know what they
here
were
we
wanting
have
to
that.
do.
Here we have that blue running for or the blue for route for the running back. So yeah, he's at first going to look to go or excuse me, at first he's going to look to block, and then based upon the rush, he's going to decide whether to go out or stay in.
Okay.
So again, we have that set up. Again, the front four almost definitely are rushing. The two linebackers that are deep, they're going to take the tight end and running back. And then obviously the defensive backs are going to take all the receivers. So we should only have the front four that are blitzing, or maybe, one of the linebackers gets swapped, but you get the idea. So
Okay.
we'll let this play out now. So again, obviously just trying to be a statue. Let's see how, watch and see how the rush comes in. The running back, he stayed in to block, but then as you notice, he releases here because he doesn't have anybody to block. Everybody else is picked up by the offensive line. So again, that's where that block and release does come in. He does, have some logic behind that decision. Like I said, as you see behind it, it is man cover two. As you see, everybody releases, everybody's kind of watching some. You can see that middle linebacker is also following the running back. So again, definitely encourage you to go and watch how to read the different coverage shells. But again, left tackle is probably one of our weaker sides. The center picks up his, but I just noticed the left guard. I would call this kind of a buggy blocking, but the left guard kind of doesn't know what to do. So he ends up blocking nobody. But then otherwise, most people pick up their block pretty well. Not perfect, because that on the right-hand side of the screen, we see that down defensive lineman. He does give a really good move to the right tackle, and so he breaks in. Thankfully, there was a body there in the way, but yeah, otherwise, it could have been bad. But in this case, the left tackle just couldn't hold his block long enough. He gave up too much depth again, in my opinion. So it's a matter of, is that a skill issue? Is that, whatever it may be. But in this case, really, you probably want to fire it pretty quickly, because they've got a pretty good rush. Now, in my mind, I'm probably reading that tight end that's coming over the middle, because I knew it was in man, so he's got a breaking route that I can hit. But you're going to probably want to get rid of it pretty quickly, because the rush is coming in. There's not a clear path to rush forward. I could run it up the middle and pick up, 4 or 5 yards or something like that. But it's, in terms of staying in the pocket, there's not really a clean area to break free from. So, so again, the defense can play good defense. They can, break the blocks. They can hold the good coverage, things like that. Those things happen. So it's up to you to kind of make the best decision based upon what they do give you. So again, new play, or excuse me, same offensive play, new defensive play. The offensive line is going to focus on those 5 guys. Coverage, to me, it looks like a cover 4, because both corners have depth, and then also the safeties have depth. So this is probably going to be some sort of a cover 4 type defense. So yeah, again, probably just the four that are rushing. But yeah, you can do a lot of different things here. Again, I like this double team, because I'm worried about this defensive end, because my left tackle keeps getting beat, so I need to give him some help. Now, that means that the other guys are all one-on-one. Hopefully they can win that, and I'll assume so. But at the same time, just to give them a little bit added support, I'm going to keep my running back in. He's going to look for that blitzing linebacker first. If he doesn't come, then he's going to try and help pick up anybody that breaks loose. So we'll see that in the instant replay. The linebacker did end up blitzing. So the running back ended up picking him up to block. Actually, that's a good thing that we kept him in, because otherwise that blitzing linebacker would have broke completely free, because we had a double team on the left side and nobody pick up that linebacker. But keeping that running back in, again, this was, I didn't know that was who was coming. The defensive is a random play, but I could see that is a possibility. So I wanted to keep him in for some extra help. The 2 tackles on the right-hand side do handle that defensive end. The outside rush linebacker does drop into coverage. So again, it's a matter of picking them up. If I didn't have the running back in this case, probably the left guard would have picked up the blitzing linebacker. But in this case, since we had the running back in, he came in and picked him up first. And so again, in this case, obviously the answer is I need to float to the right side of the screen. There's the blockers have their work done. There's depth on the left side, so I don't want to go that way. So float to the right side, buy myself some time, read what the defense gives me, and then, launch it downfield. So, in this case, again, the defense has a really good coverage, but if I'd floated to the right-hand side, I probably could have found somebody open eventually, or very least take off.
Right. I feel like the game, if you can roll out, that opens up so much more. That's not always available.
Yeah, absolutely.
But obviously, if you roll out, like in real life, that's really opens up the offense.
Absolutely, for sure. It opens up the offense, but again, the offensive line is blocking based upon what the default coverage drop is. So if you immediately take off running out of the pocket, the offensive line is not going to be able to know where you're going, because they don't have eyes in the back of their head. So they may lose their block a lot faster, or the defensive is going to see you rush out, so they're going to change their attack position or something like that. So, long story short, let at least let the pocket develop a little bit before you run out of that pocket. And, just instead of taking off running every time, I recommend to kind of float and then make your decision when to take off or something like that.
Now, earlier you showed us max protect. Can you show us the empty, the opposite of that, what that does?
So yeah, the empty is, I haven't used this much to really know about it, other than it kind of changes the blocking assignment. Usually it means that, actually in this case, no, the video that I watched basically said you should never use empty unless you are truly in an empty formation. So no tight ends or running backs in the backfield. So again, I don't have a good understanding of what it's actually used for. I don't know what the benefit is or anything like that.
I wonder if nothing changes because by
No,
default
it did change. So
There was a slight
I went back to
change.
base. I went back to base, and for whatever reason, they're ignoring that standing defensive end on the left side of the screen. So if I go to empty now, again, that defensive end could be, if he's blitzing, then he's coming in on block completely. So I either better get rid of it fast or, save another blocker, or again, switch back to base because I'm less worried about that looks like it's a corner that's maybe there, or a safety or something. But yeah, long story short, I'm more worried about that defensive end because he's right up on the line than anybody else. So,
well, maybe show us full slide and then maybe pick a new play with an empty set and we can test it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say, yeah, we do also want to cover the full slide. The video I saw basically said you should almost never do full slide unless you know that there's a huge rush coming from that side, or if you're rolling out of the pocket towards that full slide. So in this case, if I do a left full slide, you notice now the defensive end on the right side of the screen is completely unblocked. So everyone is taking steps, both the left side and the right side are taking steps to the left here. They're going to focus on the rush that's coming from the left side of the screen. Now, if I know that defensive end is on a zone, I'm not worried about him. So yeah, maybe I do that. But to me, it should be very rare that you use full slide unless you're rolling out of the pocket as part of the play design. So again, if I do full slide to the right, we are ignoring that defensive end on the end. I could tell the running back to stay in the block. So if I do that, he is going to pick up that rushing defensive end. But again, if he beats that running back or something like that, then I better be floating to the right hand side, or otherwise he's going to be coming in free just about.
You almost want to move him over, don't you?
You can. He does a pretty good job of still picking him up, but yeah, you could absolutely motion him to the other side just so that he has a little bit better position.
It's
obviously, that tells
quicker interaction too.
Exactly, yeah. Obviously, that does tell the defense that you're watching that side. So maybe if they have the blitz coming from that, they flip their play or something like that. Who knows? It's all a game of cat and mouse, but it's a matter of don't tip your hand more than you have to. So if in this case, again, same play, we've audibled, or excuse me, hot righted the running back to block, but otherwise it's the same play. So again, everyone should be shifting to the right as far as the 5 offensive linemen, and then the running back is going to try and pick up that rushing defensive end. So in this case, they blitzed a lot, actually. So yeah, long story short, I didn't have enough blockers to pick up what they had regardless of what I did. But of course, because I had everybody slid to the right, there was nobody to even try to pick up that rush coming from the opposite side. So I slid to the wrong side completely. As you notice, the tackle to the right and the guard to the right both focus on that rush defensive end, because again, they're told to just shift to the right, focus on the right. The same thing for the guard and the left, or excuse me, the left guard and the center. They both shift to the right, so they take that rushing nose tackle. But then that leaves the left tackle and the running back, my 2 weakest blockers in theory, to pick up 3 rushing players. Again, obviously numbers are going to be bad. Somebody's going to break free. It's just not going to work. So Part of that was because we shifted to the right, so all of the blockers kind of went that way. But then as well, the other side of it is we didn't have as good numbers as we could have. If we had done this as base and kept the running back into block, then yeah, it's 6-on-6. There's still a lot of pressure coming from that left side of the screen, but at the same time, you'd have better odds of picking them up because that left tackle and left guard are staying home. Again, we're in practice mode, so obviously things are in very easy, clean environment. Relaxed for sure. So definitely I recommend going into a relaxed environment. But once you're in the game, especially if you have accelerated clock on, you're not going to have near the time to make all of these adjustments. You got to read things very quickly. You got to know what's coming, and you got to kind of use your best judgment, so to speak. You're not going to be able to sit here for 30 seconds, read the defense, and say, oh, I think it's this. You have to kind of have some set routines, know that your left tackle is the weakest blocker, and so you give him more help. Read if they're coming on a blitz, which right now that nickel there is at least showing blitz. So you kind of have to make those reads very quickly and make your adjustments very quickly. My old fingers are not as quick as they used to be, so I'm not going to be able to do one of those people that make 5 hot routes in 5 seconds. But at the same time, I can still make my adjustments that give my offensive line a better opportunity to win.
So you're saying you can't build a skyscraper in Fortnite in under 10 seconds?
Probably not. No, I'm not quite that good. So
one thing I recommend is if people want to practice in a real game, don't do it in your dynasty. Go do an exhibition, do a play now. And what I did was every time I had to punt the ball, then I would just go to Super Sim until change of possession and get the ball right back. That way you can just stay on offense the whole time and practice it. And that way you're limited time as well.
The other side of that is you want to compete against different levels of defense. So you don't want to just go even on even. You want to play against your Alabamas and things like that to try to see how well your offensive line can hold up under all of that pressure.
Spoiler alert, not that well.
Not very well. So we mentioned the last thing real quick that we also want to look at is this empty set here. Let's go with this vertical shake here. So again, deep routes. I'm going to go random defense. And so here again, we see that we're focused on the four rushers, and then the middle linebacker is going to pick up secondary. Now, if I switch to empty, basically it looks like it's saying focus on, I guess, the middle of the field.
It tries to do one-on-one. It's
exactly,
it goes to one-on-one for everybody.
So again, if you press up, that goes to empty. And so now we see this. If I half slide to, as you see, the defense is kind of shifting around. And so now nobody is blocking that left defensive line. So if I go back to base, then yes, it picks him up. So
does when you go to empty and it goes all one-on-one, if that Mike linebacker drops into coverage, does he go back to that double team?
Yeah, he focuses on the double team and then also tries to pick up any garbage that comes through. So first, yeah, he's going to hold that double team as long as he can. And if the Mike linebacker is not coming, he's just going to stick to that double team.
Yeah, I didn't know if
obviously it's a passing play. You don't want him to go downfield.
Yeah, I didn't know if he was going to do that or just stand there and do nothing and look dumb.
Are you on the base?
No, absolutely.
Are you on base or empty right now?
I'm in base right now. So
what if you go to empty? I think Jeremy was asking if you went to empty, what would happen?
So in this case,
if the mic doesn't come in, what happens?
Yeah, in this case, the assignments are totally different. If I see this right, neither of the tackles have an assignment.
I think you have a half slide on. So
no, I do not.
I thought you did.
Yeah, if I do
slides
reset,
green play art. So that way you know.
Yeah. So I've reset everything. This is back to the original. So if I now go to empty, what it seems to be, if I see this correctly, this tells the tackles to pick up whoever rushes from the outside. I may be wrong about this, but this is how I see it. So the tackles are going to focus on the outside threat, and everyone else is going to be one-on-one in the – oh, no, actually the 77 is picking up the defensive tackle. So, yeah, honestly, again, I still don't fully understand the logic of empty. So for now, I'm going to avoid it.
Well, if you run the play and see what happens, how much time you get. But I imagine that left side is going to collapse pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, let's watch this as well. Notice the left tackle does not have an assignment at all, so I'd be curious what he ends up doing. So he ends up picking up that rushing tackle. The right tackle, he won his pretty easily, actually. He got the pancake. And so we had actually a fair bit of time.
It
So
was
Yeah.
pretty good.
it was actually, worked out well. I don't fully understand what the blocking logic was, but it's basically it appears to be form a traditional deep pocket is
Hmm.
how I would take it.
It almost ran the
Um,
base. I mean, really, if you think about it, you
Yeah,
had the double
except
team. The Mike
Mike
didn't come
drop
in, so
back.
they stayed with the double
Yeah.
team. But I
exactly,
know you
yeah.
didn't have that called though.
Right. So yeah, that's kind of the curious thing. The 73 was assigned to the middle linebacker. I believe that's no, excuse me. 71 was assigned to the left side of the screen, the rusher, stand-up rusher there. 73 was assigned to number 90, the defensive tackle. 75 was assigned to the Mike linebacker, and 77 was assigned to the other defensive tackle in front of him. So in the end, they kind of all adjusted
Hmm.
and they didn't all
Mhm,
block who they were originally assigned to.
mhm.
Now, is that because empty says we don't have anybody else to block, so just pick up the biggest threat, or how that works? I don't know. That's something more for to kind of go back into the laboratory for.
And yeah, that was your best pocket you had out of all the plays you played too.
Absolutely, yeah. Obviously, there's only four rushers, so
Mhm.
5 against 4, you're going to have a better time. But at the same time, yeah, the pocket developed very well. I didn't have to move at all. As you see, I got a pancake on the right side. Looks like the left side is also going to get a pancake there, or at least knock him off. And then, just in this case, the right guard just couldn't hold it as long. So the double team worked well. Yeah, I mean, honestly, in this case, you couldn't ask for more time. If you notice, this is on basically a four vert, so everybody is deep. There's it looks like just man coverage everywhere. So yeah, honestly, in this case, it was just a yeah, probably one of the better plays that I could have ran in that scenario.
Yeah, and hypothetically, in real time, you would have probably thrown it to the inner left receiver as soon as he passed that linebacker, right? And about now, you would have thrown it towards the middle of the field. He would have been wide open. So I mean, and you weren't even in any danger at that point. So,
And honestly, the far outside breaks open. The left number 9, he kind of breaks open. Really, the more open as I watch the play develop. It's hard to do this in real time, but really number 12, he's the tight end in this case. He actually ends up breaking free. The safety picks him up, so you got to kind of get your timing right. But
mhm.
again, it's the offensive line. Going back to that, it's a matter of giving yourself the best opportunity to make that read. So it's to me, this is one of the better additions to the game in a long time. It kind of is under the
Mhm.
radar, but it honestly gives you a lot more flexibility and a lot more freedom to be able to know what's going to happen.
I
So
think.
again, you can cause a lot of damage to yourself if you do things the wrong way. My advice is don't use it on every play. Be a little bit of selective of when you use it, but again, use it to help your weaker blockers. Use it to kind of pick up a blitz that you may see. The other
Mhm.
thing is we haven't seen it in this video, but again, sometimes you'll see the line out of the box point straight to even a deep safety because he's blitzing. So again, every now and then there's kind of those little things that come under the radar like that. But again, my recommendation is go into practice mode, use it every play, stick with one
Mhm.
offensive play so that you know exactly what it is every time, but then give a random defense so that you can kind of see different looks and different defenses that are coming at you. So the one last thing we talked about earlier, but I want to reiterate the coach cam with L2 on PS5. The left stick can kind of give you some indicators of who's good and who's bad just based upon their attributes here. But it's not necessarily going to tell you are they a great pass blocker or something like that. It's just going to tell you that they have some of those attributes. To me, what I would prefer is the right stick looking at these blocking. Again, I see that in this case, my left tackle is one of my weaker blockers or is my weaker blocker. So either I want to give him some help or call plays that have me moving away from that side or something like that. That and the matchups, again, it's going to tell you who's going to be your best targets. Not that they're going to be open, but that if it's a deep route, if it's a under route, and they can make a better cut or something like that, in general, they have some kind of advantage over the defender that's covering them.
Have you seen composure affect the line at all? If, like if they get beat a couple of times, or is that going to be more for your skill guys?
If I'm honest, I would guess yes, but I have not used it enough that I need to go back more into this coach cam and kind of pay attention to composure more, maybe even look at wear and tear a little bit more. I'm using it a little bit, but not all the time. But yeah, honestly, yeah, I would guess that yes, they can definitely have some, go cold, but at the same time, I can't say that for certain.
I think they do, JB. And to kind of go with Tommy's point, it's very tough to see some of that stuff in the pre-snap. That's something that I think they need to clean up for 26, is that like the wear and tear especially is very tough to see. Uh,
Hmm.
when you get a bunch of players injured or a bunch of them getting wore down, it's tough to see on this screen. Um, the composure when everybody have the meters up for everybody, it's kind of tough to see. You just have to know the difference between red is good and blue is bad. Where a lot of times in video games, red is bad. It's not on composure. You want red on composure.
But it also matches up with the icons, the snowflake and the flames,
Yeah.
so that at least it kind of makes sense that way.
And visually,
Yeah.
this is a small thing. I know when I was lapping out yesterday, part of me was thinking, I wish, like right now on that screen you have, Tommy, I wish for those unblocked defenders, I almost wish that the orange triangles were upside down to indicate that if the unblocked coming in, they are a threat. Because I believe like the read and all the other keys are all those standard triangles. Where I think if it was down, it would indicate like this is dangerous if they're coming in. And I think you run into the issue with users. Flames in other spots is very good. It just means they're a good player or playing really well. Here it means they are a threat. And I don't know if the
Yeah,
game differentiator that's the best for new users especially.
I think terminology wise, I may be wrong on this, so please somebody correct
Mm,
me, but I think it's basically a hot read. That's why the flame basically he
mm,
could be coming in hot. I need to look at
mm,
him kind of as the ball is snapped, watch to see what he's doing. Is he blitzing? Is
mm.
he not? That kind of thing.
I think you're right on that. I just think what also been hot means good in other aspects. So here it's like that's not so good necessarily. This is
Yeah,
actually pretty
exactly.
bad for the user theoretically.
As I say, it depends upon perspective. It's good for the defense, but no,
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I completely
yeah.
understand. So,
Needs
uh,
those
so
red exclamation points like in Metal Gear Solid when you get someone's attention accidentally.
play the sound effect and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
So this time I'm going to play this one out. I'm going to try and actually see if I can put some of this stuff into practice. The other thing I haven't really done is, oh, sorry, I have done this part. In this case, I've got 5 blockers. I've got an empty set, so there's no max protect. If I press up on the stick, I'm pressing it up, nothing's changing. So again, max protect only works for the players that are in the box, so to speak. So just make sure to keep that in mind. In theory, can I
What if
motion
you
him?
I was gonna say, what if you can you bring him in tighter at
So
all?
yeah, I've motioned him in. I did do a max protect, and so now he is set to block.
Can you bring your receivers in tighter at all, or
Like in what way?
can you motion them to come in tighter at all and then do pass protect or no?
Well, the receiver doesn't really affect pass protect. You can motion it in, but it's not going to affect pass protect. Other than, I guess it's going to recalculate those hot reads. In this case, it didn't change them at all. But yeah,
I didn't know if you could bring one in to pass protect just on the fly if you wanted to or not.
receivers. No, you definitely cannot. In this case, this is a tight end. If I shift him right, he just steps forward. If I shift him left, he just motions across the formation. So he's not going
Yeah.
to come into block either. Um, so yeah, again, the motion can definitely help you out. It can tell you who is, are they on a man coverage or, what they're doing. They could also move out to pick up that wider receiver or something like that to kind of shift the defense around a little bit. So definitely, the motion still is a good thing for sure. So I'm going to reset everything back to the basics, the default here. In my case, again, what I like to do a lot is a double team. If I don't think anybody is blitzing aside from those front 4, I can double team who I think is either the biggest threat or the weakest block or something like that. And then based upon this, I'll have to read those linebackers. Are they blitzing or are they staying in coverage or whatever? And then kind of go from there. In this case, this looks like a cover 4. So my guess is that no, neither one of them are blitzing. The nickel is going to play kind of a cloud coverage there. The middle linebacker is going to be over the middle, and then the other linebacker is going to be on the right side of the screen. Again, this is not a guess, but an educated guess, I guess you would say. So again, in this case, we've double teamed. We haven't done a slide because I don't want to tell anyone to do something other than this. This to me looks good. I've got good matchups, so I'm going to go ahead and snap the ball, and then I'm going to try and float to see how this one works out for me. So in this case, the linebacker did end up blitzing. So yeah, I didn't have time to make that read. The double team picked up the outside linebacker, or excuse me, the rush end, but it definitely didn't give me, it definitely left somebody completely unblocked in this case. The reason for that is because the other side, the stand-up linebacker on the right side of the screen, he did not blitz. So by double teaming the left side, I basically broke things. If I had left everything alone, then probably that blitzing linebacker would have been picked up fine. I would have had more time to make my read. But in this case, the left side did exactly what I told them to do, and it ruined me completely.
Wide open.
Exactly. That number 75 tries to pick him up at the last second because he sees him coming in, or actually the center and the guard try to switch off. But yeah, that's not going to happen very well in real life anyway. So,
No.
I was moving away from that linebacker because I saw him coming in hot. But all I did was just move into
Moved right into the guy who got beat. Yeah.
Exactly, to the other side. So yeah, long story short, like I said, you can hurt yourself as much as you help yourself. You just kind of have to know what changes you're making, know what it's going to affect, and then kind of go from there.
I know if somebody's never played with this before, I know they're going to ask this question because I know when I very first got the game and saw this, I asked this question. I know the answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway. If you call the run play, what can you do anything with the protection and blocking to get an advantage?
That's a good question. Let's go into the play art and we'll take a look at that. The short answer is no. It does not affect run plays at all. So let's go to a traditional, let's say pistol dive. How about? Or a pistol slam. How about? Again, random defense. So here in this case, if I hold L1, as you see, we don't have any pass protection or blocking assignments or anything like that. We don't know who's picking it up because in general, pretty much all of the running plays use zone blocking. It's block the guy, closest to you or that's in the zone that you're moving towards. So again, this is the L1 is the pass protection. It even says it,
right?
Big bold letters at the top. But yeah, this is just for pass protection.
You're going to want to look at for trying though. I mean, I can see where a lot of users will think, "Hey, can I use this in the run game too to help?" No, unfortunately you cannot.
That's where you're going to want to. That's where you're going to want to look at the matchup on the line, and where you're probably going to be the similar, where the guy on the left is going to be yellow and your others are going to be green. But that's where you're going to want to look at your comparisons instead.
The one thing I'm guessing it doesn't help, but you can do ID the mic and you can move him around. But I don't know that it actually makes any difference. I could be totally wrong, something to kind of play around with and see, what changes, but you can at least change the mic and then maybe that gives you a focus on the second level.
Do you want to go off random play and just do the same play back to back, just see what it does?
Yeah, we can do that. There's one other thing.
Anything with double teaming there, obviously. It's just ID the mic's the only thing that shows up, and we're not even sure if that does anything, to be honest.
Yeah, we're seeing if it makes any difference from changing.
So we're going to do
not changing
dime. We'll do dime cover 2-man. So that he's going to be blitzing. So maybe not. Actually, we'll do the cover 4 drop. How about that? So everybody's dropping. So again, here, offense, we're running this halfback slam. All of the underneath defenders are dropping. All of the deep defensive backs are dropping deep. So yeah, we'll kind of see how that is. That mic is just out of the box, so I'm just going to hit X and let it play. So obviously the left guard went straight after the linebacker because that was directly who was in front of him. Now, if I ID the mic, let's say this guy, does that change anything? My guess is no, but yeah, let's see. In general, I'd say no as well. I mean, the left guard still went after that linebacker. They didn't give any special attention to that corner or anything like that. It was everybody just kind of, again, did their zone block. The guard in the center did a double team and then shifted off to the second level. So again, number 10 kind of tries to hit that corner, but then also on the left side, number 9 tries to hit his corner. So again, I think ID the mic probably maybe doesn't do much, if anything, on running plays.
They probably forgot to deactivate it.
What's that?
They probably forgot to deactivate it.
It's
kind of what it might seem
that,
like.
or I don't know if maybe there's a way to kind of fool your opponent or something like that. I don't know. Again, who knows?
It's probably just easier to leave it in.
Exactly. Yeah. Actually, here I did select double team. I don't know if that's going to do anything though. So let's double team this guy because he should not be double teamed. So if they do actually double team him, then it's wrong. And that's a good thing, saying it works, but no. Again, I don't think any of that pass protection stuff applies on a running play. Now, on a play action play, it does apply, and a screen pass, it does apply. So let's again go to find a good play action here. So let's say this PA boot, and let's do cover 3 lock. How about? So again, this is a pass play. I can slide left and right, so on and so forth. Nothing changes on the screen, but if I go into blocking, I think something changes there. I may be totally wrong it depends upon different plays. Because again, zone blocking, this is who they should be picking up. These are who their assignments are and everything like that. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the play action doesn't actually affect anything. If I, let's say, double team this guy, does that change anything? No, it doesn't change anything there either. So again, I for play action, I think as well, they just stick to a zone blocking principle and goes from there. So, but if I do this, then actually got a pass off that time. Let's take a look at, I want to look to see, did they double team that left side? And I'm curious if it was organic or if it was, no, he didn't even try to double team him. He just stood up in a zone blocking for the play action. Again, they only rushed 3, so obviously I had a lot of time there anyways, but yeah, it looks like play action does not affect the pass protection either. Now, I mentioned a second ago, it does affect the screenplay, and I'm still kind of experimenting with this. I may be totally off base here. You can definitely see when things shift around. So again, we'll come in here and we'll do the screenplay is running to the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a half slide to the right. So I want all of my defenders, and you can see that it does take effect because the blue lines change. I want my blockers on that side to get the hell out of the way. That's the one thing I've seen a lot of times is that the running back gets jammed up on those blockers. So if I tell them to get the hell out of the way, then in theory, I have a little bit more room to work with. So if I run this, again, they ran straight out, call it a placebo effect or something like that. But to me, it moves them out of your way in that scenario.
It'd be like screens, you always have to just drop. And then as soon as they get open, then tap the button. So it's not quite the most realistic. So anything to help that would be welcome.
Yeah. Now in this case, I'm running, there's only 3 rushers. So again, we're not kind of doing the real world what we would see. In this case, I did a full slide to the right. It looks to be the same as a half slide. So now if I go back to base, I'm curious. Base, does it change anything? No, that's there. Now if I reset it, what happens there? So if I reset it, it does change things. And if you notice that that right tackle, he's dropping short, and he's always the guy that gets in the way. So again, we're telling him to shift left or right. I haven't experimented enough to say which way, but to me, telling him to shift right tells him to get out of the way, let the running back get through, and let the blitz come on through.
Is that the same issue? Is that tackle the same issue when you're? I've seen this happen a lot this year with HB Angle, where he gets caught up on the right side.
It could be, yeah. I mean, you could tell him to shift away from the way that the running back is running his out route. It also depends upon how deep the rushing defensive end is. Does he go wide? Does he go narrow? That kind of thing. So
Yeah,
You know,
I've seen
in
so many times when I run that play that the running back gets hung up on the line there.
So again, it's definitely something to experiment with, play around with, figure out what works, what doesn't. And then as well, a lot of this applies differently depending upon who your personnel is and who you're
Mm.
playing against. You're not gonna, double team with two of your best ones while the weakest ones are completely uh, by themselves or something like that. So, and then as well, if you're playing against Alabama, maybe you do the max protect more often so that you have more blockers in. You got to read your passes better that way, but at least you have a little bit more time to get the ball off or something.
Mm.
So yeah, it's going to be different in every game. It's going to be something you're going to have to experiment and see what works best for you.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was
You
going to say
got one more tip
perfect
here.
timing here towards the end of the show. I was waiting for this to show up at some other point, but this is the base, or not the base, but this is the out of the box blocking assignments. And if you notice that running back, he's on a block and release route. But if you
Uh-huh.
notice, he's focused on that deep safety. There's no reason to focus on that deep
No,
safety
unless,
except he's blitzing. The
yeah,
same thing applies to the right side, that nickel corner there. Odds
Cheese.
are he's blitzing. Again, this is kind of cheese. I
but
don't
EA
know
served
how
the
to
cheese.
avoid it.
You didn't order
Exactly.
it. They
Yeah. I'm
served
not
it.
I'm not looking for it. It just this
So
is
now
Government
what shows
cheese.
up.
he didn't
So
choose
Government
the
again,
cheese
cheese life.
then.
The cheese life chose him.
exactly. So in this case, let's say I do a half slide to the right. Now, one thing to note, if that was out of the box, it was like that. But if you make any changes, you lose those kind of, you know,
The tells.
uh, the tells. Yeah. Even if you go back to base, you still lose the tells.
Huh.
Now, if you go to reset, it does bring them back. But in this case, we know there's blitz coming from the right-hand side of the screen. Uh, and now, in this case, our left tackle is going to be on an island by himself. So I'm a little bit nervous there. So I'm going to double team the left tackle, and then I'm going to half slide to the right. So in this case, if that Mike linebacker blitzed, I'm probably screwed. But
Mm.
I don't think he's blitzing because I think the blitz is coming from the other side, and the other side is picked up. I've got that right tackle picking up the blitzing corner. Now, if that corner does not blitz, then he's going to double team the defensive end directly in front of him with the right guard. So now in this case, the deep safety who is coming from, three counties over, is going to go unblocked, but we're going to have plenty of time, or
Uh-huh.
in theory, going to have plenty of time to be able to read that. So because I know there's a blitz coming, I'm not going to take a chance. I'm going to go ahead and hot route my running back to make sure that he stays in. We're going to do pass block there. So, that changed things there. So now he's picking up the mic instead of the other side.
That Mike's
If
probably
I
gonna drop into coverage, and if that safety blitzes, then he'll probably pick up that safety.
Exactly, yeah. So we now know that he's staying in for sure. He's going to basically pick up the garbage. Whoever breaks through first, he's going to try and give some assist there. So again, if we look at our route, this is what we have. Again, we see a blitz coming from the right side. There's a drag route going across the middle, but we also know that deep safety is blitzing. So circle is going to be one-on-one with that corner. So now I can see from here, it's probably hard to see on the stream, but I can see from here that corner has a impact star underneath him. So maybe that's still not the best place to go, but at the same time, you get the idea. He's going to be one-on-one. That drag route across the middle, you're going to have to see who picks him up. But yeah, in theory, you're going to have a good chance at this. So let's see how this goes. Oh, he picked that up. I don't know if that was off the bounce. I'm going to have to go back and look at that one, but that might have been off of a bounce there.
This is a different show, but I wish we were back on the PS2 days of practice. The PS3 and PS5 versions of practice mode in this game
Oh,
are,
he just got that
lame.
elbow. Ooh.
So in this case, yeah, he just caught it. He wasn't
caught
off
it.
of yeah. But I'm going to come back into instant replay and just kind of look at the blocking. Again, you'll see the deep safety. He does blitz. The cornerback also blitzes. And the linebacker on the right side of the screen also blitzes. So we actually have 6 that end up rushing. We have 6 blockers. Thankfully, that deep safety is not going to be much of a threat because he's so deep.
Mhm.
No, actually, I'm wrong. Sorry, that deep safety did not blitz. Wow. Okay. We see that the corner did blitz. So it's in this case, it's 6-on-5. And a right tackle on a corner is going to win every time. But in this case, I got rid of it, not kind of early, but a little early because I saw that safety stepped up. I thought he was blitzing in, but I knew that I had the one-on-one matchup that I wanted to try to take advantage of.
I wonder if he keyed on that safety because he was stepping in initially, but then he was just going to take care of that flat route.
I don't know exactly. Again, that obviously that indicator is not always exact science. I thought usually it meant that they're blitzing in, but clearly in this case it didn't. But it did kind of give us the tip off of the blitzing corner that the right tackle ended up picking up. So left side, we had our double team on there, and again that picks up well. We were worried about that left tackle by himself, so we gave him some help. In this case, he probably could have beat him in the same way by himself because the left guard doesn't do anything. But yeah, long story short, there's a lot to play around with, a lot to experiment with, and kind of see what works for you.
So with that, we will wrap up this video. Tommy, thank you. And we'll be back again soon with the next edition of the Gaming Tailgate Podcast, hopefully maybe with another patch and roster update. For Tommy and JB, I'm CDJ. Everyone, thank you for watching.